Hello and welcome to the live stream. Today we are talking about the Digital Stage Summit, which happened last week, and I'm going to share some of the sort of insights that I've got from that in terms of actually just the sort of production side of it and some lessons learnt, and here to answer any questions that you may have about that as well. So just to quickly recap what that was, I say on the original website, I think I said 30 speakers. Actually, we ended up with 42 experts that were there as either speakers, panelists. We had a panel discussion every day, and we also had some amazing commentators as well that were really just carrying it between those different sessions as well. So it was a really fantastic event from my perspective. I'm not saying that because I created the event, but just because of all the amazing speakers and the value that everyone brought to the table. It really was just phenomenal, with just so many great sessions throughout the day. It was 11 hours every day of just really top-notch content, entirely down to all of these amazing folks giving their time to bring their knowledge and their experience and just their really high production quality. That was one of the things that got commented on, was just the overall production quality of the event. Well, guess what? I was just providing a little box for people to put themselves in for the speakers. So it was really down as well to all of the the high quality presentations, and everyone else was using their eCam virtual cams or largely, and it was down to what they were doing to just sort of bring that quality. So as you can see, the list goes on and on and on, all of these amazing sessions that were delivered. Now, it was just essentially delivered right here from my desk. So with my little setup here, it was a little bit more complicated than my usual live stream because I was running actually a 3-computer setup. I had one for the session timings that was over on the side, got my main computer, and then I'd got my Mac Mini that was running actually sort of a backstage Zoom session as well, that was for people with VIP passes. But then also we had our commentators in there as well, and I was kind of doing a bit of NDI trickery to bring the commentators into the main computer that was feeding out into the session. So in terms of lessons learned from it, I guess one of the biggest things that I'll say about it is the sheer power of ChatGPT. I'm sorry that AI has to work into everything. It seemed like that in the sessions as well. Whenever there was the Q&A for the sessions, there would always be the question, how are you using AI? Well, I've got to say that this whole summit was born out of a conversation I had with ChatGPT. And it's really something that I think that is underused by people, which is just using ChatGPT as something to brainstorm with, something to sort of share your ideas. And I guess for me, part of it is just articulating my ideas as well. It's a huge part of the process of getting those ideas out of my head and trying to help structure them and formulate them a little bit better. But one of the things that I did at the beginning of January was, because I talk with ChatGPT every day, I have extensive conversations talking about all the things that I've got on, all the plans that I've got, and then sort of distilling them all down and then refining them and brainstorming and things like that. So one of the questions that I asked, though, was I'd seen somebody else mention this little prompt, which is basically just, if you are talking with ChatGPT all the time, then it's got an extensive knowledge. And so you ask, based on all of the things that we've talked about and all the knowledge you have about me, what is one thing about myself that I may not be aware of about myself? And the point of this prompt is you get this really nice, rosy, glowing little bit of feedback from ChatGPT, because ChatGPT, I find, is ever the optimist, always positive, and always a bit of a yes person as well. And so you get this really nice sort of feedback, but not one to be listening too much to the positive BS from ChatGPT. I said, right, okay, now be hypercritical and tell me, I'm looking for areas for growth. What are, it's like a hypercritical view of that I may not be aware of. And that was actually a much longer answer. So there was much more that it could say on that side of things. But then I said, okay, so based on that, and this was, as I say, beginning of January, I said, based on that for Q1 of this year, what are, 5 areas that I should be focusing more on to address some of these, I won't call them issues, but I would say, potentially limiting beliefs or limiting areas of what I was doing. But basically what came out of that, though, was one of them was collaboration, and to collaborate more with people. And so after that, we had more conversations around all 5 of these different areas, but the collaboration one basically led to this idea of the summit. And then from there, there was obviously all the planning that went into it, and the organization, the structuring of it, how the days were going to be structured, and there was really no part of the entire summit that wasn't touched in some way by ChatGPT. It wasn't in some way informed by ChatGPT, or it didn't help me shape the idea. And I really do think that that is just a tremendous lesson for everybody to come out of it, is for those that are still of the mindset, because I know there are people out there with this mindset that ChatGPT is somehow like cheating, or people are using it to just create content and bypass their own creativity. I would say that ChatGPT, the whole point of it is it can really help to amplify what you're capable of and amplify your creativity. And I don't think that I would have put the summit on had I not had ChatGPT kind of by my side at every step of the way to help me with that. The other thing that happened at the summit was, as well as just focusing on like the tools and the tech and the strategies and things like that, I was very conscious that I wanted to have some sessions in there that were more around the whole mindset. And so we had some great sessions on productivity from Peter, for example, on day 3 at the right at the top. We had Kat Mulverhill talking about her momentum system, which is, you know, having a better understanding of your sort of brain chemistry, I suppose, and the way that you're made up. And then we also had Charity Gibson talking about neurodiversity and ADHD. And I think that that was something that was important to me as well, because that's something that I've come to the realization of, certain aspects of the way that I'm wired, if you like, and how that caused potential issues with me in the past in terms of procrastination, or not getting things done that I'd intended to get done, which is procrastination, but, you know, potentially some of the reasons behind that. And that's another reason why I found ChatGPT in particular so powerful, is because it's really helped me to kind of rein those tendencies in a little bit, because it helps to sort of keep me on track. So I will say that if there's one lesson to come out of this all, it's just the immense power that having ChatGPT can have in just amplifying what you are capable of. And yeah, as I say, I wouldn't have been able to do it without that. I certainly wouldn't have been able to do it without my team as well. So my small little team, Beverly and Zarina, who have just been instrumental in making everything happen as well. So I guess another lesson there is the power of outsourcing and getting help with the things so that you can focus on the bigger picture stuff. And I've talked about that before. I talked about it in one of the sessions at the summit, but I've also talked about it on the channel as well. So there's ways that you can go about setting these things up. You don't need to take on a full-time team right from the outset. You can sort of build these things up. So the other thing then that I would say is, once the idea had come about, and by the way, hello to everyone in the chat. If you've got any questions about the summit or the technical setup or anything like that, feel free to drop them in. I will be running a full-on workshop all about this on Monday, which you can still get access to with the VIP pass. So this is happening on Monday, 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. I'm running it twice on the same day, just for folks in different time zones. You can get that at digitalstagesummit.com. You'll just get immediate access to all 30 hours of the content, but it will also give you access then to that workshop, which is happening on Monday. And that I'm going to go into all the details with a full presentation about how everything was structured, from the planning, the preparation, and the production, and so on as well. So that's happening on Monday. But the other lesson then to come out of it is, as well as obviously the power of collaboration, which was the underlying purpose of it in the first place, is just the fact that you should never be afraid to ask for help, or never be afraid to ask people for things, really, because the worst that they can say ultimately is no. Actually, the worst they can say is probably a little bit more on that. They could say, they could add a few words onto the end of it. But essentially, in essence, the worst that they could say is no. But what you will find, what I found at least, is that generally people are really willing to step up and help if you just sort of reach out and ask. And what I mean by that is, I asked a whole number of people to come and speak at the event. I put out the call for speakers as well, call for commentators, and there was just an overwhelmingly positive response from people, and I just really couldn't believe the lineup that we ended up having. So, looking through the schedule and looking at all the names that we've got in here, it was just really, kind of like heartwarming to be honest. The fact that we had so many people in. We've got like these session speakers, and then we've got like the panelists as well on the panels, and then we've got these amazing commentators that we had in the in between all of those sessions, and just everybody that got involved with it. I was just really just overwhelmed by the response, and I didn't necessarily when I started expect pretty much everybody to just come and be a part of it, and those that couldn't, it was an availability issue rather than a not wanting to take part. The other thing then is with the sponsors. So I was really again overwhelmed by the fact that I reached out to 4 key sponsors. Ecamm, first of all, because Ecamm was driving it all. There is Rode. So if you watch the channel, you know that I'm a bit of a Rode fanboy, as an understatement. But that is what is powering everything. So all of the audio routing and the audio processing was done through the Rodecaster. I mentioned that I was connecting to 3 computers, but actually 2 connected from an audio standpoint, and the Rodecaster was doing the audio routing then between my main computer and the second computer. Had 2 instances of Zoom running at the same time. So one of them, Ecamm for Zoom on the main computer, was for the speakers to come in, and that was also then the main feed out to the people watching on the live feed. But then we had the Zoom backstage running on a separate computer, and that was where the commentators were, and the people with the VIP pass could watch from in there as well. And Rodecaster was handling all of that audio routing between the 2 as well, and then obviously all of the audio processing going on there as well. So as somebody who is just such a huge fan of Rode products, to have them sponsor the event was pretty special as well. Same goes for Elgato. One of the things when you are doing any sort of live production, and live production doesn't just mean a live event like this. Live production also means you're in a Zoom call and you just want to be able to have your camera, but then also switch over to a scene like this and switch back. That even if that's all you're doing, you want to think of yourself as a live producer, because it's just good to get into that mindset. And maybe you're bringing in some slides or whatever you're doing. But when you are doing this thing of not just being on camera, but actually switching back and forth, that is live production, and that's what Stream Deck allows you to do. Now, I did have a few too many Stream Decks on my desk, so I've got 4 on the desk and 2 on the floor. But really, just a single Stream Deck is going to make a huge difference to anything that you're doing with live production, but also for productivity. And I always say that like the Rodecaster is probably my favorite bit of tech out of everything that is in my studio. I just really love it. But actually, the Stream Deck is the one that I couldn't live without. So the Rodecaster is great, but it's for one thing in particular. Whereas the Stream Deck is the ultimate productivity tool, and there's no part of my daily work which isn't touched by the Stream Deck. I use it for all kinds of automations, keyboard shortcuts, and things like that as well. So yeah, it's one of those things that I bought the Stream Deck for camera switching effectively in Ecamm. That's what I thought I was going to use it for, and then it just opened up a whole world of possibilities. So if you had to take away everything and leave me with one thing, it would be the Stream Deck. So to have Elgato sponsoring the event as well, again, just meant a lot. And then there's all these different camera angles that I've got around the place as well. And all these cameras, although the camera I'm looking into right now is a Sony ZV-E10 that I've had for, I guess it's coming up to 3 years now, I suppose. But all of the other cameras that I've got around the place, down to the top-down camera up here, that's an OBSBot Tail Air. There's one that's just sort of hidden behind this. But that is an OBSBot Tiny 2. That's this one that I'm looking into. And then there's the OBSBot Meet 2, which is over my shoulder. And actually, this one here is the OBSBot Tail 2. That's the new one, and I've been testing that out. And I'll do a video about that at some point, probably next week. But it is an absolute beast. So this is kind of like the follow-on from the OBSBot Tail Air. So as I say, I've got 3 of these around the studio. One of them is my top-down shot. This one is just obviously not plugged into anything at the moment. But this is a great camera too. But just to give you some context, I actually couldn't believe it when the Tail 2 box arrived, because this is the box for the OBSBot Tail Air. But if we look at the Tail 2 box, It's kind of a beast. It's a little bit bigger, and it kind of took me by surprise because you never really know when you see like product photos, the size of these things. But the Tail 2 is really great. It's got lots more features than this one in terms of connectivity. This one was already great for that, but also having like optical zoom and things like that as well. Anyway, I digress. I will have a video about that very soon. But again, the fact that OBSBot were sponsoring the event meant a lot as well, because they do make such a great range of cameras, and these sorts of things are probably not going to be what most people would need for their leveling up their online video. And I've sent out a newsletter actually about this yesterday, and I was saying that the thing about cameras now is the image quality that we get out of the entire range of cameras is so good that really we're not making any major trade-offs. There is obviously an image quality difference because you've got different sensor size, but the image quality is now so so much higher as a baseline that really you can take any of the cameras out of their range and it's going to be a step up for what you are doing. So the fact that they've got cameras that start from like less than $100 up to the Tail 2, which admittedly is like over $1,000, but that's for a very specific use case, where you're doing events or something like that. So yeah, they've just got such a great range. So to have them on board as a sponsor as well meant a lot too. But this all comes down to just reaching out and asking. And so I don't talk about their products because they're a sponsor. They're a sponsor because I reached out to them specifically because I just love their product. So once again, the power of just reaching out to ask. And I had this conversation with somebody in the academy yesterday. So after the session had finished, we had a sort of one-to-one, and this came up as one of the questions that they had about approaching a company about something. And I said, well, at the end of the day, you've just got to ask, because it never hurts. And I'm always blown away by the positive response that I get from these things. So definitely just ask about it. The other thing then that is, I guess, a key lesson, although as I'll break down in the workshop, I will go into the full wiring diagram of how everything was set up. But essentially, the thing that I was using, the thing that was doing the real heavy lifting here, was Ecamm, and the very same tools or building blocks. Not wanting to steal Anna and Fulgen's trademark, but the building blocks that you have with Ecamm in terms of building out scenes. Maybe you've got like a scene with just like you and a guest or something like that. It's only the very same tools and building blocks that we use to put together the entire event. So there was nothing really that much more complicated than just a regular screen share. It's, as I say, it's just the software that's doing the heavy lifting. And for all of the screens and the gear and the things that I've got in my studio here, it is really a Stream Deck, an Ecamm, and a good microphone is going to be all you need to make a start, and you can do some amazing things. It's helpful to have a bit of extra screen space when you are dealing with multiple windows and things like that, or you've got Zoom running. But apart from that, it is just the software that's really doing the big heavy lifting here. The other thing that was a sort of takeaway from the event, which is something that although it was my idea to put it in, it was just really well implemented by those that did it, and that was the commentator role. And my reasoning for putting that in, there was really kind of three core reasons there. So this was the structure of the sessions. Basically, there was a session every hour, so it was 11 hours over 3 days, or 11 hours every day for 3 days. And the sessions themselves were 30 minutes. Then we had a 15-minute Q&A where I'd come on screen with the speaker and take questions from the audience and sort of chat with them. Mini sort of interview, I guess, a little bit to begin with, and then take questions from the audience, and I'd give my view on their session. But then after that has happened, so that would be 45 minutes in total then, and then we would have 15 minutes where basically I was getting the next speaker all queued up and ready to go on. And so we had this commentator role. So we had two commentators on screen at the time that were basically just reviewing the session. And so the reasoning for that, first of all, when you are, learning, there's a thing when you are delivering content yourself. There's that phrase, that expression, tell them what you're going to tell them. then tell them, and then tell them what you just told them. Well, with the speakers themselves, obviously, some of them may have done that or may have not done that, but they were basically, delivering their content. So then the idea of having the Q&A was that, obviously I would get to give my view on what had just been said, but then we would take questions from the audience. But then to have that commentary separate from that, I think was something that added a huge amount of value, because it was a way to help, bed in the key learnings. It was a way to, hear different perspectives on it as well. And so that was really one of the things that I wanted to get out of it, was just have that additional viewpoint to help bed in the information that had just been given out during the session. The other sort of practical point was, I obviously needed to be off camera at some point, and so did the guest, and I needed to get the new guest up. So there was a technical aspect, which was just, to give 15 minutes of time to, have the handover to the next speaker and so on. But the other aspect was, I always think with these things when people put out calls for speakers and so on, if you've never spoken at an event or haven't had any sort of screen time, then it's sometimes hard to, I guess, get your foot in the door almost, because people at events are always looking for, they'll always ask, what events have you spoken at before? And if you haven't spoken at an event before, how do you actually get to speak in it? Now, I kind of bypassed that by just running my events pre-COVID. And so, I managed to just create that experience for myself. And then that led to, other speaking events after that. But so I wanted to just give basically a platform for people to get some screen time. Maybe they didn't have, a full-on presentation or something that they wanted to present. But it was just a way to give that, so that then there's, it's almost like your speaker's resume, if you like. It's just one thing that would be on there to begin with. So that was kind of the three reasons for me putting it in. But the thing that was great was there was just overwhelmingly positive feedback, and it's actually one of the things that people have commented on most, was just that commentator role and how much value that added to it. So that was just really nice to see that and to get that feedback. Let me just go and take a few questions, though, before I continue, because probably some of these are going to cover off some of these things. I'll just say hello to George. Great to see you here. Obviously, Brandy Joe in the backstage as well. King Paco, hello. How are you doing? And is that Misha? And we've got Tornado. Hello, great to see you as well. Let's go down to some of these questions, and we've got one from. Whoops, skipped one out there. How are you feeling now that you've had a little longer to take it all in, because you really put on an epic event? Well, thank you very much. As I say, it was it wouldn't have been anything without the speakers and everybody else involved. So it's been good. One of my issues that I should probably talk with ChatGPT about is I kind of, when things happen, I don't tend to dwell on them too much. So that's the same for like negative things that happen, but also positive things. So I'm kind of like onto the next thing already, but I have sort of digested, how it went, and it was great. And obviously I'm doing this, so I'm thinking about it in that respect. But it's been great. It was just an overwhelmingly positive experience. It went better than I could possibly have hoped for. I did think I had it all fairly well planned out before it started, but there is always things that can go wrong. By the way, that's another way that I use ChatGPT is, I ask the question, look out a month from the event and what are, 5 major things that could have gone wrong, and what are 5 major things that could have gone well. And I will say that none of the ones that it said could have gone wrong actually did. And it's more than just like, technical failures. There are other ways that, that could have happened. One of them was, knowing me as it does, taking on too much, not having it ready in time, and things like that, or there was all kinds of ways that potentially it could have gone wrong, but none of those happened. So there was nothing really, apart from a few technical glitches. Actually, not technical glitches. Well, I suppose one technical glitch where the stream dropped a couple of times, but the other technical glitches were like my fingers pressing the wrong buttons. so apart from a few of those, though, generally it went all very well. Speaking of which, technically, did anything happen during the event that was unexpected, and how did you deal with it? The first session was me, and that went fine. And then during the the Q&A, I think it was, the stream dropped, and it was like, I felt like, if this is a sign of things to come, then that's not great. But the stream dropped, and the way that I was doing it was because there's all sorts of platforms that you can have for these kinds of summits. And I wasn't using a platform. I did want to just have it so that it would ultimately live it in Kajabi. So the portal, by the way, which you can get access to if you've got the replay pass, or if you've existing people who've signed up as well. But this portal that I built out for it is actually in Kajabi. So it's got all of the different sessions in here. We've now got a search, so you can search through all the videos. So I wanted this to be in Kajabi because I wanted it to just be automatically available to Academy members. Part of the reasoning for doing the summit was also, as a way to get people into my ecosystem and, potentially lead into the Academy. So it just made all cohesive then to be in that one place. But then from a content delivery point of view for the live sessions, the way that I was doing it was basically just streaming out to an unlisted YouTube video, an unlisted YouTube live stream, I should say. And then we also had the Zoom backstage going. But what that meant was, there was a big button to join the live stream. And of course, when the live stream went down on day one, then it was a case of, oh, right now, suddenly anybody who's joining with that link, the link is not going to work. So it meant I had to just quickly start a new stream. Fortunately, everybody in the chat that was watching live, we just dropped the link for the new stream into the chat, and people clicked on it and went through to the new stream and just sort of hopped across to the new stream. There is another lesson in that, though, which is I think when you do get technical failures, sometimes those can be the things that really kind of throw you off your stride, or have the potential to. But what that shows, though, in this example was, everybody's really rooting for you to get it back on track. So there's no need to sort of stress and worry about these things. Just figure out, like, okay, what am I going to do to correct it, and just create a new stream, drop the link in the chat, and when everybody gets back in, everyone's just there saying, yay, they're all rooting for you, everyone's there on your side essentially. So there's a little lesson in that, I suppose, itself. That did actually happen a couple of times, though, and I still don't really know why the stream dropped. What I did do, though, is I kind of pared back some of the things that I'd got going on my side. So some of the network traffic that I'd got with NDI feeds and things like that. I just thought, well, let me just shut down a few of those that are absolutely non-essential to stop that. I also had, for example, I say that there was 2 Zooms going. What actually was happening was, on my main computer, I'd got Ecamm for Zoom running, and that was running, bringing the guests in, so I could incorporate them into the production, and that was streaming out to YouTube. But I also had regular Zoom running on that same computer, and I was basically feeding into that same Zoom session like a second time from the same computer. The reason for that was, when we had the backstage with the speakers, when I was getting them ready to come on, I wanted to be able to be on camera as well as the production, because the production was going to be having the commentators on screen. So that was my reason for running like another instance of Zoom. So that was one of the things that I just immediately shut down, because I thought, right, well, let's just cut out one of these Zoom sessions that's going on, or instances of Zoom. And then on the second computer, I also had the Ecamm for Zoom running there as well, so that I could pull out the commentators into Ecamm, and then I was using NDI to kind of beam them across over into the first computer so that they could be on screen during that commentary session. But I also had another instance of Zoom running on that, which was Tiles for Zoom, which was giving me like a Zoom wall on this monitor behind me. And that was something else that I didn't shut it down on day one because of the way that I'd set it up. But on day 2, I just didn't bother having that running, because that was another thing that was potentially a bandwidth hog. So those were the things that I kind of did to try to reduce the dropouts. We did have a couple of extra dropouts a little bit later. There was one on day 2, I think, as well. But apart from that, after that first couple of sessions, it pretty much smoothed out. So but that was the main thing that happened. There was a couple of other instances of me pressing buttons. There was once as well with the commentators were all in Zoom on that second computer, and I'd set that up so that the everybody who was in that session couldn't come off mute, because I didn't want people to be just coming on and off mute if it was feeding through into the computer. But then there was one instance where I had kind of unmuted the commentator, but then they muted themselves again. But I was then off going to do my hand over to the next person, and I wasn't seeing all the stuff that was going on in the chat. And also with the roadcaster, because you can have like set up having a back channel to one of the other one specific channel, there was only me and the speaker that was in the the green room, if you like. We could only hear each other. We couldn't hear what was going on in the commentary. So it was only then when I came back off that I realized that one of the commentators was muted. So next time what I'd do is I would make the commentators co-hosts, so they've got the power to mute and unmute themselves, whereas other people in there don't. So that would be something. The other thing was I always say about Ecamm, they've got this thing called preview mode, which is where when you are in Ecamm, so like if I'm in Ecamm, I can come into preview mode here. It puts a big yellow box around this. And then what you've got is what's going out into the broadcast is this window down here. But now I could, for example, change my scene in here, and you'll notice it hasn't changed there. But then I could go in and edit this. I could go and change my overlays. I could do all sorts of things. And then it's only when you press the publish button here that actually goes into the actual live feed. So now that's gone into that live feed down there. Now, I always say that I don't like preview mode because I don't trust myself not to just sort of forget that it's on or whatever. Well, I was using preview mode at one point because I was actually setting some things up for the giveaway that we did on the final day, and I didn't actually publish it intentionally, but somehow I don't know whether I pressed the keyboard shortcut or whatever, but it did actually publish the me basically editing. So there was about I think a minute and a half where somebody was presenting, but it was actually me on screen going like this as I was setting up a scene. So that was just like a little technical error as well. But apart from that, those I guess were the only things. Somebody being on mute and my little preview mode incident, and then those dropouts. But apart from that, it went pretty well. And the fact that all the speakers, everyone came in just looking and sounding amazing. They've got all their Ecamm set up. Some of them were using slide decks, others were just using Ecamm for their production. So working with absolute pros was just a real pleasure. This one, what size is your large monitor? Is it an extra wide? My monitor is not an extra wide monitor. It's a regular aspect ratio. And I don't really like the extra wide monitors because the thing that this gives me is, with it just being a regular aspect ratio, if I want to have something extra wide, and it's 43 inches, by the way, but if I just change over to here, if I want something to be extra wide, like I can make that as wide as I want. So I could have, obviously I don't want to get my face off that, but I could have something that's like really wide. So I do use very wide stuff if I'm working with spreadsheets or Excel or whatever. But then it also means that if I'm doing things with documents, I can have something that's like really, tall. So I like the versatility that having a regular aspect monitor gives you, because then you can just lay things out like exactly as you want them, rather than just being, if you've got an ultra wide monitor, then it ends up that you're basically limited on height. But I do like the tall thing when I'm working with documents. And then I use Moom to which is that tool for window management. But then I've got all these things set up so that I can just put things into any position on the screen. So yeah, it's a Philips 43-inch monitor that I don't think it's available in the US, actually, this one in particular. I've looked at it. It seems to be Southeast Asia. I don't know quite why that is, but that's what it is anyway. So it's a 43-inch monitor. So yeah, that's why I like that aspect ratio. Looking at 1080, and think I remembered you mentioning a reason to go ahead and go with one of the other ones, but can't remember. So when I stream in 1080 usually, but the monitor here is 4K. So that basically means that if something's down in this bottom corner, like let's say this is down here, and this is where I put my presentation, like when I'm using Keynote. So I'll have my Keynote presentation down there, and so that's 1080, although the whole monitor is 4K. But what that means is then that when I bring that into Ecamm, it's not losing the resolution. It's still 1080 into Ecamm. Whereas if you've got like a 1080 monitor and you want to get the maximum space out of it, then if you were to, I don't know why my phone keeps dropping off every time I switch on, but if you were to just want to save space, and let's say that was a Keynote presentation, and you thought, oh, well, let me just shrink it all the way down to the bottom corner so it's not taking up loads of space. The problem with that is when you bring it into Ecamm and effectively scale it up, then you're going to get it. It's going to be like a blurry image because you're going to lose the resolution. So yeah, that's why it's good to have a higher resolution on the monitor. So next one up then. What will I do differently when I produce the Digital Stage Summit 2? I would have an open audio channel for, apart from the thing I mentioned about having the commentators as being co-hosts of the Zoom setup. I would have some sort of open like comms channel basically that people can speak to me, because there was a few times where things happened and there would be people in the chat, and although there was people with moderator powers in the chat, and there was people in the Zoom that were the commentators. And what would happen is I would be busy talking to the other speaker, and then I would just look back, or I'd be doing something else, and I'd look back and then see in the chat, all of these comments of whatever the error was, either somebody being on mute or the scene issue or whatever. So having like an open way that is like I can actually hear, somebody can say, what's gone on, then that would be that would have been helpful then, because then I wouldn't have missed it and I would have been able to correct things a lot quicker. So then this one, was I able to do the show with 3 USB channels, or did you need the virtual audio channels? I'd used the regular USB channels, which were the main was for Ecamm and the production going out into the stream. The chat channel was what the speakers were actually on the primary computer as well. The second USB cable was plugged into that Mac Mini, and that was basically bringing the commentary audio into the stream as well. I did have the Rodecaster virtual channels for Spotify. So I had some music that I used just at the beginning, and I'd intended to have some other little things in the event, which I never ended up doing. But because of that, I actually had Spotify running, which now I think about it was another technical issue. I had Spotify running with Epidemic Sound, so that's what where you get copyright safe music. And so I had an Epidemic Sound playlist that was just playing in Spotify, so that I could basically just like fade that in and out with one of the virtual channels, the music channel on the Rodecaster. The reason why this caught me out is because it was playing on Spotify. There was one of my sessions when I was doing a demo of Keynote, and when I went into live demo mode, and this was again, if somebody could have been talking in my ear, would have caught this a lot sooner. But whenever I went into live demo mode on Ecamm, there was music playing because Spotify was playing and it was capturing the system audio, even though I couldn't hear it because from the Rodecaster's point of view, I got the fader all the way down. But from a system point of view, the system audio was playing, and so it got passed through into Ecamm. But that's how I was using the virtual channels there. I did have the Spotify music coming into it, although I didn't actually end up using it that much. So yeah, YouTube dropped. It was the first day. It was 4 or 5 times, and 3 of them in succession, and then there was another couple a little bit later on as well. But then yeah, and then I think on day 2 there was once or something it dropped. So it was kind of crazy that it did do that. Hey there, Paul. Great to see you. One of our commentators as well. It was great to have you. In fact, I think you were one of the first, weren't you? Yeah, it was you and Michael Reed on day 1 right at the beginning. So yeah. Brandy Joe, what was the plan if a speaker or commentator unexpectedly cannot be present for their time slot? With the commentators, I figured that that at least one of them would be there and could carry it. Also, there were other ones that were just sort of watching from in the backstage as well. So there was once where somebody wasn't in the right Zoom. They were just in. I could see them in the YouTube chat, but not in the Zoom. So I dropped a message in saying, jump into the Zoom. But if they didn't, then I could see that there was, one of the other commentators who kind of knew the deal of what to do. So I would have just added them in and messaged them. For the speakers, I figured if ever a speaker didn't turn up, we would just wing it, and we would just have a bit of it'd be turn into just a regular little live stream, and just check in with the chat. Could always have just like pulled people out of the Zoom, do a Q&A or something like that. So I always just figured, if that happened, we'd just wing it somehow. Hey Doc, great to see you. And yeah, preview mode. I've always said I I hate preview mode because of that issue of not knowing whether I've fully published something or not. But then, yeah, on that instance, it just kind of happened on its own. I mean, it didn't, but I don't know what I pressed to commit it. I must have done a keyboard shortcut. I should probably go and look like what all the shortcuts are for preview mode in particular, and then just disable it, because it was actually working well. There was a few times that I used it through the event to like get things queued up or get things ready or things like that. Another one that I kind of forgot to do, talking about things that I would do differently. It was only on the last day that panelists had names on. The first 2 days, I completely forgot to put up the name of the people that were the panelists. Same, I think, with the commentators. So on day one, I don't think there was sort of names on for the panelists, or perhaps there was. Perhaps there were for commentators, but not for panelists. But yeah, that would be something else to consider doing it a bit differently next time. One or two speakers and commentators had lower sound. Were there any lessons here, like doing pre-event testing? Well, so the thing is, we did do pre-sound checks actually, but I did notice that myself in some of the recordings. So yeah, there is definitely something to be learnt there to just check the levels that people are coming in on a little bit more robustly, and being a bit more diligent about that. But yeah, it's one of those things that sometimes it sounded it sounded fine, and I could hear them fine when we were doing the little pre-test. But then yeah, when they came in and I listened to it after, I also could hear the difference there. Oh, sorry. So the 1080 tail air versus the 4K. Yeah. So the 4K obviously then is. This is what I was saying about the. I mentioned this in my newsletter as well. That the thing with the sensor sizes that we've got with these cameras, or the sensor quality, actually there is a big difference between sensor size between the Meet SE and the Tail 2, for example. So there is going to be that difference, but then just also the resolution as well. I guess sort of future proofing and having that higher resolution is going to be beneficial, but then there's a price to pay for that as well. So it's a case of just sort of weighing up those things. That's right. So the benefit of having a bunch of live streamers around, anyone can step in to be a commentator. That's absolutely right. And I mean, that was also evident from, although in the Zoom backstage we'd got the commentators were in there, and there were some that were it wasn't necessarily their session, but they were in there as well. But apart from that, just the people who had showed up and were in the VIP backstage in any case, you could tell just by the cameras. They got great setups too, so it would have been absolutely fine to just bring somebody up, and that was actually, I mean, the thing about the whole event as well. It was it wasn't an official Ecamm event. Obviously, they were sponsoring it, but it was very much an Ecamm event. If you look at all the speakers, like almost all of them were, members of the Ecamm community. Certainly, most of them using Ecamm as well. There was, I think, maybe one using OBS and a couple bringing slide decks in separately. But generally, it's all the Ecamm fam folks that were doing it. And so, yeah, as you say, John, that they're all just ready to sort of step in, and it had that sort of community vibe that we've got in the Ecamm community as well. That is just is really positive, supportive, and uplifting as well. I was talking to Katie about this, Katie from Ecamm, about this just yesterday. How that's the thing about the group, is everybody is so supportive of one another and uplifting as well. So that was definitely the feeling that I was getting from folks in the audience as well. Let's see. To the speakers, yeah, be a nice, cute family. Be a shame if something happened if you didn't show up. You'll never get even sound. Do the best you can, and don't sweat it. Yeah, I do take the point though. There was like a bit of sound differential in some of them when I went and listened back to myself, and it was certainly more noticeable with me. And the thing is as well, I didn't really do any major like audio post processing, so I could have done. Probably could have done better to fix that, and I suppose I still could in theory as well. And yeah, yeah. So many people were in there in the audience and were indeed camera camera ready. The other thing that I'll say about the whole running of the event was the timing. Now, actually, this is just just about the right time. This is just about to get down to 1/2 past or 45 minutes past, and I've got this timer set up. So this is something that you didn't necessarily see as a guest or a commentator or whatever, but it was something that I set up for the speakers. And basically, what it had is this was feeding into the same Zoom as the speakers. So this is just Ecamm. It's running Ecamm for Zoom, and so then I would have this computer join the computer where the speakers were, and it had like the name of the commentator, what the next session was, and then obviously who the speaker was at the top. But then we also had like this countdown, and so the countdown was basically split into there would be one for the actual session. Let's just go up to one up here. One would be like the session and what the session name was, the time. Obviously, this is spilling off the end because the timings are all out here. And then when it got down to the Q&A, so it'd count down to the bottom of their main session. Then we'd have a 15-minute countdown for the Q&A, and then there'd be a 15-minute countdown for the commentary for the next session. All this is just a series of scenes in Ecamm. I can't do a screen share of this, but there's just a series of scenes set up, and they've all got timers in them, which are just basically going to a specific time of the day. Because when you set up a timer in Ecamm, you can set up like either a countdown for a specific amount of time, or you can set to an amount of a specific time of day. So I basically just went and programmed all of these scenes with the correct times that those things were going to end. And then it just basically automatically advanced, like when it got to the time, it would just advance onto the next scene, to the next speaker, to their Q&A, down to the next speaker, and so on. And so it would just be incrementing through this. But what that meant was the speakers could always see, how much time they'd got left. And from my perspective, it was fun watching a speaker get down and, so many of them were just, nailing right on the dot of 1/2 past. So that really helped with the sort of timekeeping. And that's something that, as I say, I just built that out in Ecamm. Created a little template and then put in all of those things. And that was something that I got as positive feedback from the speakers as well. So, in terms of just being able to see what was coming up next, and see all of those things. That was actually one of the things that I did cut out when we had those stream dropouts, because what I also did was, because we've got interview mode, that Ecamm was feeding into the main Zoom where the speakers were. But what I did is I also gave the interview mode link out to commentators so that they could potentially join that and be able to see, in the browser, they could have the live timings in the browser. But when we had those network dropouts, I just thought, that's an unnecessary bandwidth hog. I'm sure folks can just know when the top of the hour is. So I kind of switched that function off as well. So there we go. And exactly that, Dean. Yes, I'm not allowed to make post-production edits. It's very off-brand. So yeah. How many hours did I sleep after the summit? You know what? I thought before I started that doing basically an 11-hour live stream 3 days in a row would be really tiring. But it wasn't actually an 11-hour live stream. It was basically me attending the summit for 11 hours. That's what it felt like. And there were other people watching that did attend all 11 hours of all 3 days. And because it's very different, like if I was doing what I'm doing now for 11 hours, it would be exhausting and my throat would be dry by the end of it. But I was basically getting to, front row seat to sit back and watch the sessions, have a bit of a chat with the speakers before they went on, and, as part of the Q&A. And then obviously with the commentators doing their amazing role of just carrying it for 15 minutes, it honestly didn't feel exhausting by the end of it. And I guess part of that was just like the adrenaline, or whatever you want to call it, the buzz of actually doing it was great as well. So by the time that every day finished, I was kind of a little bit exhausted, but I was also like really wired as well from it. So there was that aspect to it. But then the next day I did just have quite a long sleep. But I did find myself waking up in the middle of the night feeling like I should be pressing buttons or whatever. But I finally got back onto my usual sleep cycle now, so it's all good for us from that perspective. The thing about doing it all the way through, and by the way, just the thought about that was, I've been to summits before where there's virtual summits where there's like a lunch hour or something in the middle of it. And that's only really relevant to people who are in that particular time zone. And sometimes the lunch hour might be the only 1 hour that people can spend live. So that's why I did want to make it, first of all, longer than just 8 hours. I wanted to make sure that people in most time zones could at least attend some of the events live. And then also that was the reason for just going straight through without having any breaks in it. And as I say, it didn't really feel like I wasn't getting a break because of the structure of it. So that was kind of the motivation to do it all the way through and have it quite so long for the day. And I was amazed that people did come for 11 hours every day. It was quite impressive that they did that. Thanks, Jamie. Do you have plans for another summit, but with a different associated theme for content producers? I definitely will be doing it again. I will also be considering doing an actual live in-person version as well. Maybe that might be a hybrid. Maybe it might be as well. I've also got some other ideas for events that I've been planning for a while, actually, that are in person and virtual. In terms of the theme of it, yeah, I'll have to revisit the actual theme and what that would look like. The overarching concept of it. There's still so much depth that we could go into, even if it was the same thing. Because my whole thing is this concept of the digital stage and how we need to be putting some effort into leveling up our video skills as a way to grow our business. And so there's still actually lots more that we could cover that's still broadly the same topic, but just going into different aspects of it. We could have easily made it twice the length and still had lots of great speakers. So in terms of the actual overarching theme, yeah, I'm not sure about that at the moment, but there definitely will be. This will be the first of many, and whether it's an annual thing or maybe I might do one later in the year as well with a slightly different slant on it, and then sort of switch back and forth. I'm not entirely sure, but I will be chatting with my friend ChatGPT about that to flesh out those plans. I have got plans for there's another event that I do, which actually was what I was when I made my own plan for the quarter. I was going to do my Digital Stage Revolution event, which is this 4-day event that I do that's basically just me, and it's an intensive 4 full days. But I flipped that out for the summit after my chat with ChatGPT. So I will definitely be doing that one in any case later in the year, the Digital Stage Revolution. But then I've also got plans for like a sort of 3-day boot camp, if you want, which will be an in-person thing, but that'll be more kind of like workshop based. I suppose a little bit like Ecamm's Creator Camp, but it won't be the same as Ecamm's Creator Camp. It'll be more sort of business focused. So I've got that one in the works as well. And then also there is a retreat. So this is something that I did previous to Take One Tech, is actual business retreats where you have a really small group of people, like no more than 10, that come to a location and then spend like 2 weeks just really focused on working on the business, and then you get like a day dedicated to each person, for example. So that's something else that's coming in the new year. So we're only just not in the end of this year yet, not even the end of Q1 of this year, but that'll be in Q1 of next year. So yeah, a few other things on the horizon. So let's see. Are there any parts of the production that you would be comfortable handing off to someone else just to lighten your workload? I mean, technically, I'll be comfortable handing lots of it off, but I actually just really enjoyed the process. Things like, though, I mentioned, making the co-hosts. Making the commentators as co-hosts just to manage that thing in the background. But really, it wasn't, once I'd set everything up in terms of the timings, that the timer just all ran on its own. The scenes were all set up. The funny thing was, everybody just showed up. I had a chat with the speakers before they came on, and everyone was showing up looking and sounding great, so there wasn't much to do from my perspective there. I kind of joked with Luria, who was on day 1 on session 5, and I said, it's funny really that I don't really have much to do here because everyone comes in looking and sounding great. And then I went to go and introduce her, and then switched over to my scene, and I hadn't assigned it to the placeholder camera for like that scene, and it was like literally the one thing that I had to do, and I'd forgotten it because we were too busy chatting away. So there are things like that, just being a bit more tight from my perspective with the process, and making sure that I'm doing the one thing that I'm supposed to be doing. But there wasn't really a huge amount of heavy lifting from my side. So there isn't that much that I would necessarily feel like, oh, I've got to offload some of this to lighten the load, because it really didn't feel like I'd got like a heavy workload or anything. What country would be for the next one? So I was just looking at for the summit, the virtual summit. Obviously, it's virtual. If I did it live, I would do it in the US. I have got my Digital Stage Revolution event, which originally, the first time I did that was going to be a hybrid event in Dallas and then virtual, but I ended up doing it purely virtual. But I would be looking to do that as a live event, and maybe again in Dallas. But then I'm also looking to run that event in Singapore as well, which is close to relatively close to me, a 2-hour flight away. But I'm looking to do some other things in Singapore this year. So I'm looking to do one as a live event in there. Does the in-person event come with unlimited Tom Yam Goong? So a Thai cuisine there. Maybe not the summit, but certainly the retreat would. The Digital Stage Legacy Retreat. You couldn't attend, but would really have liked to. Well, if you want to get access to all the replays, this is the little cue for me to press my little button. You can get access to the replay pass, and that gives you access immediately into the portal, and you get access to all of the sessions in there. And basically, you can search through the sessions. So if you want to search for like editing in Descript, for example, or editing in description. No, that's not what I want. Editing in Descript. Let me say that again. Descript. Then it's going to find like all the locations in the videos where that was mentioned, and then you can just click into the video and it'll go straight to the place where that was mentioned in that video. But then also you've got all the different days and all the different sessions, so you can just jump straight into like the individual sessions. So we've got one from here. Don't know who this guy is, but when this comes up, Mr. Doc Rock. Then you can go and watch the session, and then they've got all their links and things in like that. So you can get access to that immediately with that replay pass, and that also gives you access then to the workshop that is happening on Monday. And if you're watching this after Monday, you also get the access to the replay of that as well. So that's where I basically break down everything about how the whole event was put together. There was another thing that came out of it, by the way, which was all of the great books that people were recommending. And so I have also committed to starting the Digital Stage Book Club, and I'll be sending out some more details about that next week. But I've been getting all of those recommendations that were made during the summit and other recommendations from folks, and then we'll be sort of sharing those out via email to folks, and we'll create a place for resources for all the great books that we're using to help us master our digital stages. Coming back over then, what internet bandwidth, upload, download do you have to be able to pull through the summit? Well, technically, I've got a gig up and down, although at the time, I'm not sure exactly what it was. It certainly was more than adequate to do everything. So that wasn't my issue. I was also using Speedify, so it wasn't the bandwidth on my side that was causing the the dropout. I don't think, because it was still plenty. There might have been some other things locally, who knows? But I still wanted to minimize things that could potentially be causing issues. I was also using Speedify, so I had that also tethered to my my mobile, which has 5G and whatever speed that was giving. So that was kind of technically a fail safe. And when the YouTube was dropping out, as I say, a few times on day one and day two. The Zoom still was staying up for that. I think on day one there was an issue with day two, there was an issue with the Zoom, but basically that was still staying up. It was just the YouTube stream that was down. So who knows? It may have been on YouTube side, may have been something on mine. Who knows? I'm not sure. You really like the keynote magic move with Ecamm. Did anyone discuss that? Well, actually, I did. That was my session on day 2. So that was all about leveling up your presentations with what I call immersive presentations. And so that was, where is it? Session 6 on day 2. Using immersive presentations to deliver your value with maximum impact, and that was me delivering that session. So that was all about keynote, and in particular the magic move. Yes, Rich, yeah, just because I don't have enough things to fill my time. I mentioned at the beginning that this whole summit came out of a conversation I had with ChatGPT, and helped me to sort of shape the idea and whatever. So now we're at the end of Q1 and we're moving into Q2, obviously. And so a couple of days ago, I did my Q2 planning, and it's really great to have the conversation with ChatGPT for a couple of reasons. It's not just the feedback it gives, but it's the articulation that you have to do in order to get your ideas out there. And so it's as much about, for me, like formulating my ideas by having to articulate them and say all the things that are going on and how I see things going and whatever. It's almost like thinking out loud to do that. And I find that because I do have to make it fully legible or what's the word? ChatGPT has to understand everything. I can't just sort of skip over things in an abstract way. I've got to articulate everything. So it helps me formulate my ideas. But one thing I mentioned earlier is I do find that ChatGPT is very much a sort of yes person. And so, when I talked about my plans for Q2 rather, and the things that I've got on, it was coming back with things like, that sounds like a solid plan, or that's going to be great. That's a great idea. And it's all very positive. But when I came back to it again and did the usual thing that I do, which is say, okay, now be hypercritical. What is it that I'm missing? What are some gaps here? What are the blind spots that I might have here? It came back with 7 points for me, which were just like so on point, but you just don't necessarily see these things yourself. I won't go through them all, but I could just give you like a little bit of an idea about them, because, as I say, I'd come up with this plan. Let me just get my ChatGPT up. I'll just give you a quick glimpse of this, because as I won't go through all of it, but high-level goals for Q2: increase exposure, boost leads, revenue, and recurring monthly income. Focus on podcast recordings, video studio masterclass launch, book launch, and increased visibility on LinkedIn. So these are some projects. These are future projects coming up in Q3, Q4, and next year. Then the weekly plan for the next few weeks. These are like key things to focus on. And this was all coming from it saying, oh yeah, that's a sound plan, and we sort of formulated this. But then I came back with this thing, basically, this is a great plan as far as I can tell. But now what I'd like you to do is look at everything I'm doing from a really hypercritical point of view. What am I doing wrong? What could I be doing better? What are some areas for potential growth? I want to maximize the use of my time and maximize my impact to help as many people as possible. And what am I missing here? So then it came back with like these points. And this is the real thing that I think people miss out with it when they're having these conversational style conversations with ChatGPT, is really don't just get it to, agree with you for everything, or say, pat you on the back and say it's a good idea. The real value comes from saying, yeah, but now be hypercritical. What am I doing wrong here? Where are some areas for growth? What are my blind spots? So, this one, you're spreading genius too thin. It's very nice of it to still be positive, even when I'm asking it to be critical. But, you're doing a lot: podcasting, course creation, book publishing, academy maintenance, LinkedIn, content creation. And when you see it put out there, it's like, yeah, that is probably quite a lot. Oh, and I'm moving house this quarter as well, next quarter. So then what could you do better? And it's giving some advice there. Under leveraging your strengths. So talking more about, I'm doing, I'm outsourcing some things, but I should be outsourcing more. The academy isn't yet the star of the show. You've got a killer product, but your ecosystem still feels like the content is the main event and the academy is the follow-up. Flip that. Maybe that's probably the time when I should say, if you want to join the Academy, doors close midnight Friday. takeonetech.io/academy. So it's just to its point, it is sort of a backseat thing. But anyway, so that's another bit of advice that it had there. Revenue leaks and underpriced transformation. Your pricing is super fair, maybe too fair. You're providing transformational value, but haven't always positioned it that way. Move away from selling access to selling results. Good way of, good reminder to have to, frame the transformation rather than the product or the, what they're getting. Not leveraging authority assets yet. So talking about basically, the client results and more in the way of reviews and so on. I suppose this is just for me, a little prompt for me to plug these things. If you enjoyed the event, then you can go to feedback.takeonetech.io to leave your honest feedback of the event. So that is another thing that I need to do more of. Avoiding paid growth. Now, this is the thing. I haven't done any paid advertising as such for the for my products. I did actually run some paid ads for the summit though, but limited. I didn't do a huge amount of paid advertising, and part of that was with it being the first time of the event running. I just had too many other things going on. Next time, I would definitely run a lot more paid ads for it. But this is one of the bits of advice that I've been given for this quarter. Do more guidance, basically. More guidance, more. I just read something in the sidebar. Do more paid advertising, basically. And then finally, my affiliate army. Although I've got an affiliate program technically from Take One Tech, I've not been leveraging that. I've not been, giving the assets to help promote things and whatever. And that just comes from the fact that it's just another thing that requires, time and effort to set up. And so I haven't done all of the setup for that. But that was just an example of the sort of conversation that I have with ChatGPT, where it actually really helps me with feedback. Now, this all started because of Rich comments. Not like I don't have enough to fill up my time. And that reminded me of this chat because, it is an issue of potentially taking on too many things. But I figured that the book club is actually a pretty low lift thing, apart from getting a graphic created for it and whatever. It's a case of I've got now a way to collect all of those things, the reviews and the recommendations. And then I can actually have, Beverly and Zarina, they can create the graphics and be posting them. So it's not actually taking as much of my time as those things normally would. So let's look for your consideration. I think here's a rough future summit audience: launched and making money, launched and not making money, not launched and not making money. Different summit audiences in terms of like their products, I guess. The thing about with Take One Tech and the whole digital stage thing. So everything at the moment is digital stage except this channel. At some point, I will change the name of the channel, and there is a slight sort of pivot that I'm doing, which is more towards basically the online business side of things, and being video first. That is the underlying message of it, that is the tool to create an online business. So I suppose that is what you're talking a little bit about here, but that is kind of more also the way that I'm taking the academy as well. So although it used to be called the Take One Tech Academy, and it was the courses were very much focused on the tech side of things, whereas now I am leaning more towards the business side of things as well, which is kind of why with the summit I wanted to have that focus of day one was more like tech and tools, day two was more like on-screen presence, that kind of thing, and day three was more about the growth. But there's definitely more to be done there in the online business side of things, which is actually kind of more what that bootcamp that I was talking about, the digital stage bootcamp. Everything's got to have that first two words, and that was more what that's about. But there could be a summit that has more of those sorts of things in as well. It's rare, and this back to the bandwidth issue or the thing issue. It's rare that it's totally bandwidth from Zoom or Ecamm to YouTube. There are a minimum of 15 to 25 servers the signal hops from. So many points of failure not in your control. So that there's a couple of points there. First of all, obviously, yes, the connections, but it also just sort of highlights this thing, which I mentioned in, I think, my newsletter and also in a couple of posts about this. I am continually sort of blown away by the fact that, we can even talk to each other from around the world. I'm here in the north of Thailand, and for the summit, we had, speakers from around the world in, every continent. Well, I guess not in Antarctica, but we had speakers from every continent that were coming in and taking part in it, and people watching from around the world. We used Stream Alive on the, I actually meant to use that, by the way, more throughout the event, but it was one of the things that it just happened to be that the first stream dropped when I launched or when I switched to the scene that had that. It was nothing to do with Stream Alive at all. It was already running in the background, but it was just that when that dropped, it kind of threw me off my my train of thought. So I thought, let me just limit what I'm what I'm doing from a technical perspective. So I didn't end up using Stream Alive as much as I intended to do, but that was something that we did use that on the final day during the giveaway. We used it to run the giveaway on the final day, except not the big overarching giveaway, but we ran some smaller giveaways during the final day. Yeah, one of the things about that is this thing where, you say, drop into the chat where you're calling from or you're joining from, and then it puts all the little dots on the map. And yeah, to see, folks all over the world, it is kind of amazing that we can do this. And, you can run a multi-day international event with speakers from around the world, just from a little desk here in the studio at the bottom of my garden in Thailand. It's I'm continually amazed by what we can do with really, pretty low cost stuff these days. My newsletter yesterday was about how when I started my channel, I was using, a 10-year-old Canon camera that I just sort of repurposed for this. But then when I came to upgrade my camera, and at that point 3 years ago, everyone was talking about, the mirrorless cameras like the Sony ZV-E10, and so that's what I'm using now. And with a Sigma 30mm lens, that's the lens that I've got on it. But those two things together, about $700 for the camera, about $300 for the lens, something like that. So it was like $1,000 investment just to get the camera. With the cameras that we've got now, with the entire OBSBot range, there are other manufacturers who make really good specific video content cameras. The cost of them has come down tremendously, and what that means now is, instead of spending $1,000 for a camera and a lens, you can now spend, and I did this some of this in my newsletter yesterday. It was, you could get an Elgato prompter, an Elgato Stream Deck XL, an OBSBot. I think I used the Meet 2 as the example, and then a couple of lights, and also a Rode PodMic USB microphone, and all of that would come to, I think in the end it came to $910 or something like that. So you could have like a complete video setup for less than just the cost that we used to have to pay for the Sony ZV-E10 and the lens as well. But the fact that you can get all of that and then be running these events is, as I say, it's pretty mind-blowing that we can do all this now. And I also talked about in my final session during the summit about this idea of finding your ikigai. And when I looked back at some of the comments, because I didn't actually see them all at the time that they were coming in, but I looked back and there was somebody who'd said something like, does anybody really find this? And by the way, what this is this Japanese concept for your reason for being, basically. So it's the four things are, what you're good at, what you love doing, what you can get paid for, and what the world needs or people need in general. So if you can find something that's like the intersection of all of those, then, that's what you should be aiming for, because that is, your reason for being. And somebody had commented and said, is it really, does anyone ever really find it? Can you ever really find something that does all of those? Well, my answer, honestly, is yes, because that's exactly what I feel I've found right now with what I'm doing. I absolutely love it. I love everything about it. I feel like I'm pretty okay at it. Certainly, people need it, and it's something that you can, generate revenue from as well. So it certainly is something to aspire to, and something that you can achieve. And what I would also say then is that, it is amazing that what the technology allows us to do. And that's why I'm so passionate about technology and, Roadcasters and Stream Decks and Ecamm and OBSBot cameras and all of these different things, because you put them all together and it allows you to be anywhere in the world and delivering your value. And that's what all of this comes down to. It's not actually about the tech, it's about the value that you've got to deliver. And those speakers that were at the sessions there, each of them had some important message and value that they needed to deliver or wanted to deliver. And and it was the tech that enabled to do that. And so that's why I'm really so passionate about this, because pre-pandemic, I was doing a lot of traveling. I was away from home, whereas now I get to be, at home. My day pretty much is, I tend to get up at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I've got some time before the kids go to school. I then do the school run, then come back, I do some more work, and then I'm pretty much wrapped up by 2 o'clock in the afternoon to spend time with the kids doing the afternoon school run and everything like that. But there's no, there's rarely a day when I'm not actually there with my kids, picking them up or whatever. And that's another reason why I'm so passionate about the tech and this whole thing of the digital stage, because it really has the power to transform people's lives. So in the same way that it has done for me post pandemic, I'm rarely rarely away from family at all. In fact, so in fact, I don't think I've been away from, well, apart from Creator Camp, I suppose that was the only time when I've actually be away from them. So it's all great. Seems YouTubers want us to ditch ChatGPT and use a dozen alternatives. What are your plans? I've got a huge list of I call it my Brian folder because of Brian Cossack, who comes to our office hours sessions in the academy, and he's been doing all the research. He's been doing all the research in finding tools that work for him, and he's finally got like his toolkit now of tools that he's using for creating presentations and things like that. There are lots of AI tools. Then I've got my go-to AI guru, which is David Crewis. He delivered one of the sessions about AI. He's also in office hours sessions in the academy as well. And so he does, like, for me, if I ever need to know anything about AI, he's my go-to. If you look for Appy Dave on YouTube, that's his channel. And he's doing he's next level. He's a genius, and he's doing some amazing stuff. The thing for me is, there are other tools out there. There are other tools that are similar to ChatGPT. There's like Gemini, and there's Claude and so on. The thing is, they're all moving at a pace. And so whenever I've tried to go into Claude or Gemini, I did subscribe to them, and I've since unsubscribed to them because I find that having like one that I'm sticking to, and I've just got like all of this history. We've got quite a thing going, me and ChatGPT. We've got quite a history of chats and understanding, and the library of things that we've worked on and so on. And so I do find that whenever I've tried to jump over into one of the other specifically chat based pieces of AI tools, that I've just felt like it feels like talking to a stranger. And certainly what I'm able to do with ChatGPT is now at the point where it's pretty frictionless. I don't feel that there's like an extra learning curve that I've got to go through or it's got to go through. And so that's why I'm just kind of sticking with ChatGPT as my primary AI tool. Now, when it comes to all of the other AI tools, there are so many that are for specific purposes. I don't do much with video AI generation, nor do I with photo, image generation either. Although, there's some other tools for that. And, ChatGPT's just got a big upgrade in terms of the image processing it can do. But then there are other AI tools, like, for example, a great one is Gamma AI. So if you're somebody who is, wanting to create content or presentations, but actually the graphic design side or the presentation side is your sticking point, then something like Gamma AI, I think actually it's gamma.app. And you will have seen, if you go and have a play with Gamma, and then you go and watch some of the replays of the summit, you'll see that a number of the speakers were actually using Gamma AI to create their slide decks. So something like that is a tool for creating slides, and it's really great. There are some others that are great for creating like wireframe diagrams and flow charts and so on. So there is lots of AI. I am not somebody at the moment that's got a huge amount of time to be doing the research, and everything's moving at such a pace that I'm just figuring out what's working for me. And at the moment, that's ChatGPT, and I'm open to change. But at the moment, I'm just focused in on some other other things that I'm working on at the moment. In terms of my ChatGPT plan, it's the whatever it is, the $20 a month. I am so tempted to upgrade. They've got that plan that's $200 a month. Now, in theory, the reason that people would upgrade to that, they talk about it for the deep research, deep mathematical modeling, and things like that. Actually, the reason why I'm sort of still tempted to upgrade to that is because of the advanced voice mode. You can talk to ChatGPT on the mobile or on your desktop, And the way that that works is, you're just having a conversation back and forth with it. But there is a regular voice, and then there's what they call advanced voice mode. Advanced voice mode, the thing that sets it apart from the regular voice mode is that with regular voice, I find that if you take a moment to pause, it's kind of jumping in with an answer immediately. And I find it really frustrating. So like if I was to just be talking and then stop to think for a moment, in that little pause between those two words, it would have jumped in, started to answer the conversation, or chip in with something, and I find that annoying. Whereas with advanced voice mode, you can really have a much deeper, longer conversation, and it doesn't keep trying to talk over you or jump in all the time. But you are limited with how much time you get on in a day with that, with the plan that's like $20 a month. But with the I don't know, I can't remember what it's called now. Is it just called Pro, the one that's $100 or $200, whatever? But with that, you get unlimited amount of that. And that is the reason why I would potentially upgrade to that. But I still haven't at the moment. So I'm kind of managing, without it. Because at some point, you can't be just talking. You've got to actually do stuff. So I've managed to take that as my signal of, like, if I've run out of my time, it's probably time for me to be actually implementing something. But that is what I'm using in terms of ChatGPT. It is certainly an interesting time to be alive, though, with it all. The other thing that I'm looking forward to with ChatGPT in particular is this idea that you've got memory in ChatGPT where it can remember certain things, but at some point that gets full and you have to go and sort of clean it out and remove things. Now, that's going to be a good idea in any case at any time, because there is stuff in there. Sometimes I go through my ChatGPT memory and it'll say, has a meeting at 12 o'clock. And that was from like 3 weeks ago, but it's just for some reason remembered that, because obviously it needed to remember it in the day, but now it's kind of like it doesn't need to know that. So you can clear out things like that. But there is certainly some things that are like higher level overarching projects or things that I want it to remember that I'm finding I'm still having to trim out because of the lack of that memory. You can obviously create projects and create documents and things like that, but I like the cross chat memory that it has to be able to remember things like, what is the Digital Stage Academy? What is the Digital Stage Summit? All of these things, so that then it can reference them later on. So the sooner the sort of maximum memory increases, the better in my view. So yeah, that's what I'm using, and I will continue to just continue on with ChatGPT. So with that said, if anybody's got any further questions, drop them into the chat. If you've got any questions after the replay, you can drop those into the comments as well. As I say, we have got this workshop coming up on Monday, and that will be a much more structured. This was obviously just really a bit of a chat about the event and questions. But the workshop itself, I'll be going into everything about the planning, how I put the portal together, how I did the planning for the getting all the speakers, the sponsors, the thought process behind it, the steps that I took in terms of where to start. So starting with, well, here I am. I'm just about to tell you. Started with reaching out to a few of the speakers first of all to get some of those on board, then did like a sort of soft launch to start getting registrations, then reached out to the sponsors with some speakers on. So it wasn't just completely, just only me. I had the sort of backing of those people, if you like, to add some weight when getting sponsors on board, and then flipping it back to, more speakers and more attendees and getting in from that perspective. So but I'll talk all about that and the whole process, and then the technical aspect. So I've got a nice little flow diagram that I'm working on at the moment, which is showing how all those 3 different computers, the multiple Zoom instances and everything like that, how that was all connected as well. So if you get that VIP pass, it's just $47. You get access to not just this workshop, 2 workshops, 10, 12 hours apart. So if you want to come to both of them, you're welcome, but you can pick the one that works. But you also obviously get access to all of those replays. And as I say, 11 hours a day for 3 days, 33 hours of amazing content. And then we also did a bonus Q&A session earlier on this week. So we did 2 of those. So those will be there in the replays. They'll be there after Friday. It's just, as I say, $47. But you can also get that if you sign up to the the Academy as well. So the Digital Stage Academy is going to have a sort of structured course to take you through, but also you get access to all the other courses, and you also get access to all of those replays of that as well. Doors to the Academy are open only until the end of this week, so end of day on Friday, US time. Pacific time, I guess. So that's your chance to sign up for that. I used to have the doors to that open all the time, but now I just open it at set periods during the year, so that we've got people coming in at the same sort of period and can sort of be on that path together. Doc has all three, Chat, Claude, and Gemini, and they cost me $60. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing the value that they can add. I've just found that I'm sticking with one myself, because I found that Gemini in particular. I do like Claude. I know that it's sometimes better at writing style things, but I found that Gemini we just didn't get on actually. Maybe I'll give it another whirl. Did anyone have the problem after the last Ecamm update? The Tidy camera virtual is not working. I don't know about that actually. I haven't had any issues with things after the update not working myself. I'm not sure if anyone else has. I haven't heard about that. There was an update to Ecamm that came out relatively recently. Maybe that's the one you're talking about. I don't know. But there was an issue with not an issue, but there was like a fix for something with something to do with the OBSBot cameras. I think it was like if you rebooted them, then there was some. I noticed in the notes that it fixed something. I'm not sure what that was. That's a great point, Rich. By the way, for everyone, something like Magi, one of those. What do they call them? Like aggregators. So you get access to all the different tools in one place from an AI perspective. I've heard good things about Magi. So you get like the image, the video editing, and the video AI creation and things like that, and then obviously chat and so on. That's a great solution. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed the summit and are watching the replays. And thanks, Paul, as well. It was great to have you as part of it as well on the commentary side. Right, well, with that said, I will wrap it up here, but thank you so much for watching. And I always say that I will go and leave a video over on the right-hand side, but it does require me to wait till the video's finished processing and then go in and add it in. And I'll be honest, I need to just delegate that to someone, because I often forget. But I promise at some point we will go in and add in some video over there on the right-hand side. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the live stream, and if you attended the summit, I hope you enjoyed that too. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.